767 miles per hour is the speed of sound at sea level, and it was once considered the upper limit for aircraft speeds. The Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird was 3 times faster than this, reaching speeds of 2,200 miles per hour. The aircraft captured hearts all around the world when it debuted in 1966. The SR-71 was a remarkable engineering effort that still stands in a class of its own as the fastest crewed aircraft ever built. In 1957, the CIA approached Lockheed Martin about developing an ultra-fast spy plane. While its U-2 was already in service, its relatively slow speed rendered it defenseless against anti-air missiles. Deep in the throes of the Cold War, the CIA needed a better, safer way to gather intelligence on the Soviet Union. Lockheed got right to work, putting Clarence Leonard Kelly Johnson in charge of creating a prototype. Dubbed Project Archangel, the A-12 was but a glimpse of what was yet to come. Featuring a chassis built almost completely from titanium, the A-12 was the first aircraft to utilize the material to this extent. Previously, titanium was only used in small quantities, largely for its heat-resistant properties. Acquiring the titanium alone posed a massive challenge to the team, as the largest supplier was the Soviet Union. The CIA had to establish multiple shell companies to purchase the material without raising suspicion. But this was far from the only challenge encountered when building the titanium beasts. Johnson and his team had to develop new methods of production and construction to bring the titanium plane to life. In the end, though, it was worth it. Thanks to this material, the A-12 was able to maintain a Mach 3 cruising speed without melting mid-flight. Several iterations of this design were made, with one intending to emphasize its capability for high-speed, high-altitude reconnaissance, the Blackbird. The SR-71 featured a unique design, sporting a chime running from the tip of its nose to the base of its wings. This is just one of the many aerodynamic considerations that Johnson had to incorporate when designing the aircraft. The CIA had demanded it to be as fast as possible, and the first step to getting there was to make it as aerodynamic as possible. When viewed from its side, the SR-71 almost looked like a sword ready to cut through the sound barrier. From below, it resembled a snake. Due to its unique design, engineers dubbed the aircraft Habu, a deadly Japanese pit viper, during one deployment in Okinawa. But perhaps more striking than its shape was its color, a shade of black as dark as the night sky. The planes were first painted black in 1964, after the realization that black paint would help lower the temperature of the airframe. Despite operating 85,000 feet in the air, nearly at the edge of space, the friction generated during its Mach 3 cruise speed caused its decals and paint to burn right off the frame. Thankfully, only these decals were at risk of burning up mid-flight. In addition to the black paint, multiple safety measures were implemented into the design to allow the SR-71 to withstand the nearly 600 degrees Fahrenheit temperatures it would reach during flight. Half of the plane's estimated 160,000 pounds max gross weight was fuel, but this was no ordinary fuel. The Blackbird was powered by JP7, which has a much higher flash point than regular fuel, requiring it to be injected with triethylborane during the starting process. This produced a distinct green flame from the SR-17's J58 engines. With afterburners, they could produce up to 32,500 pounds of thrust at sea level. Not enough can be said about the Blackbird's speed. Of the 32 units produced, only 10 were lost due to accidents. In its 30 years on the field, not even a single one of the over 1,000 missiles fired at it was able to strike it. This is why the SR-71 was never equipped with armaments of any kind. Its defense systems were governed by the laws of physics. It flew higher and faster than any missile system's effective range. It seemed almost invincible. Yet on the ground, the Blackbird seemed more vulnerable. Its titanium body felt soft and almost organic to the touch. When docked, it seemed to weep as fuel leaked from its tanks. Due to the limitations of plastics at the time, no material was available that could both seal its tanks and withstand its operating temperatures. For 30 years, the Blackbird dominated the skies. It flew 17,300 sorties, totaling 53,490 flight hours. 11,675 of those hours were spent cruising at Mach 3, with one of those hours spent traveling from London to New York in a now iconic test run. Unfortunately, the Blackbird's years of service came to an unceremonious end. It was terminated on November 22, 1989, sporadically taking flight over the next decade. The program officially saw its end on June 30, 1999. Some speculate this was due to the emergence of satellites as a more efficient means of gathering intelligence. Others attribute it to Pentagon politics. Regardless, its legacy lives on in the hearts and minds of aviation fans and pilots around the world.